Good day and welcome to another episode of Andynalysis. When I talk about my musical influences, I often mention Bach as I grew up listening to his music when I was a child. In fact, I have already done an analysis of a Bach Prelude on this channel, and let's just say there may be another video coming soon with a similar topic. A funny thing that can happen when I'm composing is that Bach will make a sudden appearance. And recently I found a recording of an old piano piece of mine on my hard drive where exactly this had happened to me. And I thought it may be interesting to analyze how, without realizing it at the time, I wrote a piece that shares certain characteristics with a Bach Prelude. So let me take you on this little journey to the year 2015 and my piece Keine, Helden for solo piano. Hello viewers, welcome to Andynalysis. First of all, let's listen to the piece. Alright, so there are quite some differences between this and a Bach Prelude, of course. And probably the most striking one is the 5/8 meter, which to my knowledge was not common in the Baroque era. But you can maybe see what I mean when I say that the piece is quite Bach-inspired. There are two rather obvious characteristics that make it similar to a Bach Prelude. Firstly, the whole piece is based on a rhythmic ostinato, just like the following examples. And secondly, the opening bars establish the key that the piece is written in, before the harmony branches out, becoming more and more pressing bit by bit, and leading up to the dramatic climax at around 3/4 of the piece. The biggest similarity between Keine, Helden and Bach's preludes, however, is the way I treated the harmony. And in order to show that, we are going to need some chord symbols. There we go. So, first, as always, long yaw. No, wait, that's not correct. So, the opening section of the piece goes back and forth between E minor and C sharp minor. This is not typical Bach harmony just yet, but I was just really into third relations at that time. As E minor is the first chord that we hear, and the melody confirms this tonality, it is safe to say that E minor is the key of the moment, and you would consequently have to analyze C sharp minor in relation to it, which would make it a modal interchange chord. But there's a problem with that, as the little turnaround in the first house doesn't really fit the E minor tonality. And at the latest from the B section, C sharp minor wins the upper hand as the key of the moment. This is why already in the beginning I chose to analyze E minor and C sharp minor as two separate keys. Now, the second house introduces what I perceive as very Bach-like voice leading, and this continues in the next section. The key element here is the use of chord inversions, which lead to a bass movement in small steps, usually seconds or thirds. This also results in a movement in parallel thirds between the bass and either the top voice or one of the middle voices, which makes for a smooth and, let's say, rather elegant sound. The more generic fourth up/fifth down movement in the bass does appear occasionally as well, but is reserved for moments of bigger impact, for example when a temporary climax and/or target chord is reached. Obviously, I took some liberties with this system, and in general my harmony is more jazzy than Bach's, but the basic principle of smoothly running outer voices remains the same. And on top of that, the way that the harmony doesn't really settle and keeps driving forward basically until the final resolution at the end of the piece is also very reminiscent of Bach's preludes. Reaching this effect mainly boils down to delaying moments of cadence or even avoiding them altogether. The inverted chords that I already mentioned also do a lot in terms of the harmony not resolving, as of course, for example, a chord in first inversion will not sound as stable as it would in root position, even if it's the first degree of the key. And furthermore, I used lots of dominant flat 9 chords for extra harmonic tension. Let's have a look at a section of the piece where the feeling of harmonic restlessness, so to speak, is very pronounced. Lastly, another very Bach-like technique are these micro-melodies, so to speak, in the inner voices. In fact, Bach would typically integrate the melody in the broken chord figure without even having an independent top line, like on this famous example right here. Bach of course didn't invent this system and was by far not the only one to use it, but it is something that I always associate with him. I could obviously go a lot more into detail about the writing techniques that I mentioned, but I want to keep this video rather short and concise. So keeping everything in mind that I mentioned, let's listen once more, and this time with chord symbols and with the harmonic analysis written underneath. Alright, so this was the first tryout of an idea that I had for a new concept, where I show a composition of mine that was inspired by an already existing composition. I want to make another one of these very soon. Somehow Keine Helden is a piece that I keep revisiting, and it is one of the few pieces that I wrote during my studies that I still like and I'm actually quite proud of. What you can hear in the background now is an arrangement of the same piece for jazz ensemble that I wrote a year after I wrote the original piece. If you're interested in listening to that, you can do so on my other channel. I will put the link down in the description. I really hope you could learn something from this video, and if you're a composer, maybe this idea of using an existing composition as a blueprint for a new composition can be interesting to you. Also, let me know if there were any writing techniques that I mentioned during this video that you find particularly interesting. Then maybe I can try making a more in-depth video on that as well. Finally, if you liked this video and would like to stay up to date, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to me. I hope to see you all on the next. Bye!